Hey everyone, this is Todd McFarlane here. I just want to make an announcement. We're going to be doing on February 12th, on Monday, at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 5 p.m. on the East Coast. We're going to be doing a charity auction event, which basically means every single penny that we earn that day, 100% of it will be going to the charity that you in our polling will pick. The three charities. One is for the Animal Welfare, American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, the ASPCA, for all you animal lovers out there. The other one is for Children's International. There are people both here in this country and around the world, children that don't have enough food in their bellies, and it's a good cause to basically see if we can help feed them. And then one of the women's rights care, another one that helps women across the globe also stay healthy, give them medical and food so they can raise their families properly. We'll let you guys decide which one of those three you want to give 100% of the money to, and then we'll basically sell and do as much fun as we can do. Now, what's going to be in the auction? Oh, we're going to go to my warehouse. We're going to find lots and lots of stuff. You guys saw some of it in the past, like sweaters. Maybe we're throwing a jacket. I found a couple pieces of artwork I'm going to donate. I'll probably do a sketch or two that's in there. We've got tons of comic books. We've got tons of toys. We're going to do some sort of gathering of things put together. We're going to offer like a half an hour personal Zoom, me and you, whoever wins that one. We get to just chit-chat, have a good time. Another one that we'll do a Zoom that any of you aspiring artists or know somebody's an artist, I will basically do a half an hour review of your portfolio of the art and give you some tips that I can. And then we're just going to come up with a bunch of other stuff that's super crazy. The goal is to raise, hopefully, somewhere between $40,000 to $100,000 maybe for a good cause, and give every single penny that's raised away to one of these great places. I think it's the reason why I'm here more than anything else on Whatnot. We can, besides a great community with you good people there, is that we can get a lot of money and help the world do a lot of good things, and in our own backyard, whether that's in a particular state and or in our country. So anybody interested, come out February 12th, 2 p.m. on the Pacific Standard Time, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Get ready for it. There's going to be a link in the bio to any of the charities. So if you want to basically help us in the voting of that, you can basically do your homework and research. So hope to see you there. I'll probably buy a couple items myself so we can make that donation too. All right. Peace. Be good.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Comic Source Comic Boom collaboration. Time for another Spawn Daily. We're up to issue number 36, and it's pretty interesting because for the first time, we have a summary on the inside cover. So I'll show you that in just a second. Anyway, let's dive into issue number 36, which is a really good read, actually. Let me go ahead and So, interesting cover, as you can see. It's like Spawn attacking Wanda, which, you know, wouldn't necessarily expect to see that in the comic. So as we turn the page here for the credits, again, McFarlane on story, Capullo on pencils, just like we saw last time. It's split up. It doesn't say Greg Capullo, Todd McFarlane art. Speculated on that. We can ask Greg if we ever have him on the show, or maybe Todd. Todd McFarlane is listed as the inker. We have Tom Orzechowski on letters. Steve Oliff handles the colors, along with Quinn Suppley and Oli Optics. Special thanks to Kevin Conrad and Julia Simmons. And then you'll see below the dedication box dedicated to Keith Giffen, we see Spawn 35 summary. So last issue 35, Twitch returns to work. Burke struggles to connect Chief Banks to Billy Kincaid. Banks calls Winn. Banks learns that Spawn gave Winn the file, heads out to confront Spawn. Burke and Twitch go after Banks to warn him, hey, you're not supposed to go into the alley. That's when Spawn finds out that Burke never gave the file to Banks. Spawn also experiences a flashback care of Cagliostro, where he learns for sure once and for all that Winn was the one that ordered his death. Banks cracks under the pressure of confronting Spawn and tells Spawn about Winn's connection to Kincaid. So that, along with the knowledge that that Winn had ordered his murder, gets Spawn to head over to the CIA headquarters, or U.S. what is it called? U.S. Secret Security Group or something? USSG, United States Security Group. That's what it is, USSG. But that spurs Spawn to go over there. He's finally going to do away with Winn once and for all. Again, got to wonder, like we speculated and wondered many times, why didn't he do it long before? Don't know. But so just as Spawn is about to take out Winn, Terry Fitzgerald shows up and tries to save Winn. And so to Spawn's perception, it looks like this guy that was his best friend has betrayed him and is actually working for Winn. So just another dagger in the heart of Spawn. So we see on the first page here, Spawn still has the shoelace stitching up his face, and he's yelling at Terry Fitzgerald saying, "You traitor." Terry Fitzgerald, he's doing his job in all fairness, and Spawn certainly doesn't have all the facts. And also you have to remember that Terry Fitzgerald doesn't know that Spawn is Al Simmons. If he did, and he knew that Winn ordered the hit, I don't think Terry does this. I think Terry would try to run interference for his friend and let him take Winn out. So obviously Spawn could survive this, but he doesn't want to expend energy needlessly, and he certainly I don't think he's at a point where he wants to take out Terry Fitzgerald. I think he's in more of a state of shock than anything. So he wants to capture Spawn. He wants to take Spawn alive, get some information, whereas Winn's yelling at Fitzgerald, "Shoot him, what are you waiting for? This is a negotiation." And Terry Fitzgerald's like, "Killing him's not going to give us any answers. He's more valuable alive, like for what we can learn from him is in terms of his formidability and whatnot, and where he comes from and how he's got his powers." Winn doesn't want to hear any of that. He's like, "Guards, listen up. I'm relieving Fitzgerald of duty. Shoot this guy quick before he escapes into the shadows." Like, if you're Winn and you're trying to win Terry Fitzgerald over, I don't think this is the way to act. Not that Winn is necessarily acting rationally. He's sort of fearing for his life, I guess. But still, and Fitzgerald knows that Winn's a bad guy, so he's probably not surprised by it, though he may have to pretend to be at a later point. So they open fire, but Spawn is, not standing where he was just a moment ago when they fire. He can, meld into the shadows. So he takes out a bunch of guards by throwing a couple of filing cabinets. They turn and aim in that direction. And Winn's saying, "There's no way he's going to get out of here alive." Spawn's response is, "Want to bet?" Now he's all the way on the other side of the room. And he dives at Winn, and both Winn and Spawn go tumbling out of the building. So they land many, many flights below, many stories below, crashing through the ceiling. And Winn is actually not too badly hurt. Like, you would almost think that he would, maybe Spawn cushioned the fall, but that could have killed him right there. But throughout this ordeal, throughout this confrontation, Spawn is saying things to Winn like, "I can't believe you don't know who I am." And Winn keeps, imploring, who are you? How am I supposed to know you? And it's making Spawn angry. Like, "I'm the guy whose life he stole, someone who got in your way, someone who didn't count." Again, like, all I can think, I don't know why Al Simmons doesn't come out and say who he is. All I can think is that he wants Winn to make the realization himself. Like, do I even matter to you enough, Winn, that you'll remember what you did? It's like I said last issue when I was talking about this aspect of the story specifically. It's almost like Al Simmons wants to provoke Winn to realize who he is, so that then Al Simmons will kill him and Winn will die with Al Simmons' name on his lips. But just speculation. I'm trying to explain why this dynamic is existing. Again, something else to ask Todd at some point. So anyway, while they're battling on this lower floor, I'm sure all the security forces are, trying to descend down, and this just regular rent-a-cop security guard comes in and says, "Don't move, both of you." And Winn says, I'm special security, sector 12. He's the intruder. Give me your gun. And the guy's like, "What for?" And Winn just takes it and shoots him. Like, if there's any doubt that Winn is just an evil piece of crap, he says, "I need a sacrificial pig," which I get it. again, no subtlety from McFarlane showing us just how evil Winn is, but it also feels a little unnecessary. Like the security forces, they're already going to do whatever Winn tells them and whatever they can to capture Spawn. It's not like they need the extra motivation of, oh, like officer down or whatever, you know. So anyway, Winn runs out of the room and he's yelling at the people, help, the creature's gone mad, he killed the guard. It feels unnecessary. Again, like Winn's forces, they're going to do what Winn orders them to do. They're going to do everything in their power to capture the guy. I guess just, hey, let's show that Spawn is not a hero. I don't know. That part, it didn't play real well for me. It didn't seem very authentic. So anyway, over the course of the next couple pages, Spawn's trying to find a way out. They're blocking all the exits. He's jumping around from floor to floor, trying to find a way out, trying to, preserve his energy, not use his powers so that he, it diminishes his power level. He's jumping around, and eventually he just busts right through a wall because they get him cornered and he has nowhere else to go. So he's on the roof of the building next door. That's not enough. That's not out of harm's way, as it were, because again, Winn is head of the United States Security Group. They have tons of assets, and obviously they've called in like air support and all this sort of stuff. And sure enough, Spawn is on the roof of the building next door when there's a helicopter, a gunship. Again, this part is, you kind of got to take it with a grain of salt. Winn is giving the commands. He's saying, yes, you can fire, but I mean, this is New York City, right? I don't know that any military pilot, regardless of who's giving the order, is going to go, okay, I'll take the shot and fire this missile in a populated area. Just doesn't necessarily have that much of a ring of truth. I get it. Like Winn is, high up on the food chain, but it kind of stretches believability a little bit. But be that as it may, it makes for a fantastic looking page. As we can see, the missile gets a target lock on Spawn. It's launched, and we see a big explosion there at the top of the building, next to the CIA building's giant explosion. So we do get a counter there too of Spawn 6887, which actually is the exact same amount of power he had at the end of last issue. So maybe he managed to jump away before the missile hit him, or maybe he was able to, the costume was able to get him out of harm's way. Regardless, he didn't have to use any energy if he even survived. Maybe the next time we see the counter will be at 0 because Spawn will be dead. So meanwhile, back at the 12th precinct, we hear from Sam and Twitch, based on their conversation, that they turned over the file that they had on Burke to Internal Affairs. Now, Spawn had given this file and had a ton of incriminating evidence against Chief Banks, and Spawn had given it to Burke and said, show this to Banks, tell him to leave me alone, stay out of my alleys, or, he's going to be exposed. Burke chose not to, and chose instead to investigate the allegations in the files, trying to nail Banks himself. Couldn't make anything stick, couldn't find hard and fast evidence, but was pressuring and making insinuations to Chief Banks, kind of leaning on him, hoping he'd crack under the pressure. Instead, Banks went running to Winn. Winn sent him out after Spawn. In the confrontation in the alley last issue, like we were talking about, it all came out, right? Chief Banks knows for sure it's Sam and Burke that know about the bad stuff he's done. Sam and Twitch hear Banks confess to setting Billy Kincaid on the senator's child. So, everything's out in the open. It should be the end of Banks, right? But again, Winn, really high up, has a lot of connections, can pull a lot of strings. And so Twitch is pretty upset. He's like, I don't get it, right? We gave the file to Internal Affairs, and there was so much evidence to at least force his resignation, if not have criminal files. And in no time, in less than 20 hours, Banks is completely cleared of everything. And Burke's pissed off going, yeah, it took him 3 weeks to clear us for Billy Kincaid's body in here. And this guy gets off in like 20 hours. It's ridiculous. This whole system is dirty. And Twitch is speculating, well, it's got to be his contacts in the CIA, that got him out of this. And so they're trying to figure out how they can link Chief Banks to what happened. How can they get rid of him? And they're thinking maybe they need to go to Spawn, because it's got to have something to do with Spawn. So while they're trying to figure this out, Banks actually comes and confronts them. and says, I can't fire you now because it would look too suspicious, but as you can see, I'm well connected, and you guys better start looking for another job because as soon as the heat dies down, you're out of here. And it's pretty interesting because, Banks is kind of throwing his weight around, and Twitch, who usually is more on the timid side, in a very small voice says, excuse me, and then he just explodes at Banks, and it's actually pretty cool. He's like, screw you. You can't threaten me or my friend. I have a copy of the file. I've given it to somebody safe, and if anything happens to us, I've arranged for it to go out to all the major newspapers and talk shows, and I don't bluff, so you better believe it. Not to mention that I'm a sharpshooter, and if you're talking about, doing any kind of harm to us, you just remember you can be walking around the city and I can put a bullet in the back of your head anytime I want. So I like it. Like, Twitch is standing up to this scumbag, and it's just great. It's great to see. And in my mind, Banks can go at any time, right? Like, have Spawn kill him or whatever. Like, I don't care. He's almost as bad as Winn. Well, in a way, he's worse because he's also spineless. He's a coward as well. So we do get a little interlude here at Grandma Blake's house. Again, it's just a little bit of exposition to let us know where Wanda's at with her charity and how, a little bit of the family time here, and everything seems to be going okay. Wanda is talking about how Terry's been working a lot lately, trying to impress his new boss and whatnot. So obviously Wanda's not going to confide in Grandma Blake about the fact that, yeah, Terry's trying to butter up his new boss, but not for the reason that you might think, right? He's not trying to get in good with them. He's trying to get in good with them so he can take them down, as opposed to anything else. So then we get the three familiar talking heads that we've seen many times before: CNN, Entertainment Television, the right-wing guy. They're talking about the explosion downtown and how nobody was seriously injured, except one guard was killed, and they're denying that it's a terrorist attack. And again, not a lot of ring of truth to this. Like, a lot of talk about terrorist acts. Oklahoma City bombing is mentioned, but yeah, just firing that missile in city limits in New York, where there's densely populated, just doesn't have that ring of truth. So anyway, we see on the next page that Winn is in the hospital. He's all bandaged up. There are some other colleagues of his. We were told before that he only answered to the Joint Chiefs and the president. So not exactly sure who these guys are. Maybe they're more, lateral against him, but they're basically telling Winn, hey, you're done, right? You're a smart man. You've brought too much attention. You have all these sensitive arrangements, and, we have all this undercover and black bag stuff, and we can't have the media crawling all over this. So yeah, you're done, right? I've been saying you're trash for years, and now you've gone too far. So it's clear he's not even liked amongst his colleagues. So one of them goes on to say, you know what, let me make one thing clear. You're alone. Like, nobody's going to help you out. You're in a free fall. This time you don't have a parachute. No way you're coming out of this one intact. So just get some rest, because this is going to be the last chance you're going to have to feel comfortable. So I'm just glad that, again, this guy obviously doesn't like Winn. He's like, I'm just glad that you finally got exposed for what you are. So they all leave. A couple of Winn's underlings are talking about how most of their plans are in danger, plans overseas and whatnot, just because of the damage at the building, and undercover assets are going to be exposed and everything. And Winn's like, listen, you got to make everybody, he calls his own undercover agents, he calls them pigs. Make those pigs understand that I'm going to have this resolved in a heartbeat, and remind them it's not going to be wise to move against us. Like, really? Like, Winn, you are some piece of work. So anyway, when the guys leave, who shows up but Violator and his clown persona, and he's very happy with Winn. He's like, you've been doing a great job of putting the screws on Spawn. You've been doing exactly what I said, and don't worry, I'm going to use my abilities to make it look like a terrorist attack, and nobody will be able to point the finger at you. And, I know it makes you want to kiss me, but calm down. But even though you have been doing a great job with Spawn, you got to be sure not to push too hard, because he will kill you. And, I need you around. I've seen your, I've seen you on Hell's dossier, he says. Like, very impressive, which, makes perfect sense, because Winn is definitely a scumbag. So be high in the ranking for evil people. So he says, yeah, keep pushing Spawn, but try to keep your distance. So and then a nurse comes in and distracts Winn, and when he turns back, um, Violator's gone. So meanwhile, back at Wanda's house, she's wondering why the phone hasn't rang. It turns out Terry didn't hang it up. It's not charged. She's worried. He hasn't called. And there's a knock at the door, doorbell, whatever, and she goes to answer, and it turns out it's Spawn. And, last time she saw Al Simmons, Spawn, he was beating up on some guys, and it really freaked her out. Almost to the point, I think, of it being a little over the top. Like, you were being attacked, Wanda, and he was protecting you. And I get that he's brutal, and he looks sort of horrific, but he's never threatened you or done anything to you. So I don't know. Again, she's supposed to be smart and intelligent, but the way she acts sometimes, she comes across as like two-dimensional and really weak as a character. And I don't really like when we first got introduced to her, she seemed like such a strong, confident woman. And I'm not sure about this characterization that McFarlane gives her, but anyway, she's, screaming and ranting and raving and freaking out. And Spawn, to his credit, he's trying to talk to her. He's like, I just want to talk. I just need a minute. I just want to talk. But again, she's not listening, freaking out, screaming, like really sort of annoying in a lot of ways. I guess unless you're in that situation, Ken, maybe I'd freak out and cry like a little girl too. Who knows? Certainly would be a sight to see. But anyway, he tells her, Terry lied to both of us, right? Because again, Spawn believes that Terry Fitzgerald just betrayed him by trying to save Jason Winn. It's like, and Spawn's probably even thinking that Terry was in on his assassination because he wanted Wanda. That's what he says. He says, Terry deceived both of us. Don't you understand? He's protecting my murder. He must have not cared about me. He only wanted you, but he doesn't love you like I do. And Wanda's like, what are you talking about? So, this is pushing her even farther over the edge because she's already freaking out. He's like, I traded everything to be with you. And he's like, don't, and now you're acting like you're scared of me, but you know me. Don't you remember that day at Coney Island? I promised I'd never hurt you. And at that moment, Wanda's like, wait, you're saying you're Al? How do you know what Al told me? Who are you? And he's like, no, you can't be Al. He's dead. Stop torturing me. And Spawn's trying to make her understand. And at that point, Cyan comes walking in. Mommy, is this bad man hurting you? And when Spawn sees that, he kind of, it's like a glass of or a bucket of cold water being thrown on him. He realizes he's not going to be able to make her understand. I don't know, like maybe don't come barging in the way that you do. Like, I know you can't make yourself look like a black guy, but you could make yourself at least look human. That might have been the better way to go about it. Hey, I have a message from your husband, and then start, saying stuff. And because Spawn does, we are told that instantly Spawn calls to mind hundreds of details that only Al Simmons would know, jokes they shared, but he doesn't get a chance to say any of them. But if he'd come in a different way, looking different, even if it is as a white guy, surfer guy or what have you, but he ends up leaving, and we're told that it's just another bit of torture for him. It's just hell twisting the knife. And as Wanda's sitting there cradling Cyan in her arms, trying to recover from this ordeal, she leans against the answer machine and accidentally turns it on. And there's actually a message from Terry that says, Wanda, this is Terry, get out of the house. Spawn attacked. He's going nuts. He knows us. He may come there. So, I also don't think Terry handled it the best way. Like, it's tough. Again, if they knew, and Spawn tried to tell Wanda in his defense, but if Terry knew that Al Simmons and Spawn were one and the same, there's no way Terry leads that group in there. Like, maybe he still feels obligated to save Jason Winn. Maybe not if he knows that Winn was responsible for Al Simmons' death, but I don't think he's standing in front. Maybe he orders them in. It wouldn't have been so bad for Spawn. Spawn's in a terrible spot here. Like, he just feels betrayed left and right. Like, he's got nobody left to trust. Just like the angst and just what a horrible feeling. Like, what a horrible position he's in. So great job by McFarlane. Good writing to put Spawn. This guy's backed into a corner. Like, he's got nobody. The only thing he has is some homeless guys who are his friends. And, not to take anything away from them. They're people. They're loyal. They seem to do whatever's in their power to help protect him. They lie to the police and whatnot. So all that is great. But they're not the people that Spawn cares about in terms of having history with, having grown and falling in love with his wife, and going through all the training with Terry, and going to combat zones with him and all that. Like there's a bond that's been forged there, and to have these people betray him, Terry, by seemingly saving the guy that killed Al Simmons, and then by Wanda completely rejecting him when he's spilling his guts, saying, "I'm your husband, I'm Al Simmons," and saying things only Al Simmons would know, and she still denies it. Like, I mean, look what Al Simmons has lost. He has sacrificed everything, his immortal soul, and returned to Earth 5 years after his death, looking like he looks, with no shelter, nowhere to gain comfort, nowhere to have just nothing. He's got nothing. He's all alone. And everywhere he turns, things are just getting worse and worse for him. Like, he just can't help but feel terrible for the guy. So a lot of angst, a lot of emotion. Story really holds up. Like I mentioned last time, the exposition has been cut down on tremendously. And I love that these summaries are going to be in the front of the book. I don't know how long they last, but I love it. I feel like putting those summaries in there is great, because it lessens the chance even more of there being exposition. As far as the art goes, fantastic. Talked about it last time. Not sure why the change with McFarlane inking Capullo's pencils. Maybe it just took Todd a little while to trust that Capullo was going to do layouts the way that Todd wanted them, but art's fantastic. A lot of action in this issue, as you saw as I was flipping through it. So yeah, really, really great issue. Ends not necessarily on a cliffhanger, but leaves Spawn in such a terrible position that you feel for him. You sympathize with him, and you definitely want to read the next issue to find out what happens next. So we'll be doing that tomorrow, so be sure and tune in. We have plenty more audio-only content on the Comic Source audio podcast channel. So best way you can find that, and be sure not to miss any of the interviews or reviews we do, is just go to your favorite podcasting app on your smart device, or your favorite podcasting platform, Stitcher, Google Play, iTunes, whatever it is, and just do a search for the Comic Source and subscribe. So every day when we release our episodes, they'll be right there on your device or on your platform, ready for you to listen to. So we appreciate you joining us, and we appreciate the support as always, and we will talk to you next time.